Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We might as well take advantage of the opportunity to tear down this XL-870 so that we can get it cleaned up and get everything prepped to put into that new crankcase that ought to be here any day now. So, without further ado, let's take it apart. Alright, so I mentioned before that those are not the correct screws for that. Let's just get everything off and we'll deal with the right hardware as we go to put it back on. And depending on how tight these are. Oh yeah, it's going to be a pain in the neck. There's one downside to having the flywheel off. But what I'm going to attempt to do here is put it back on just onto the key and then use my hand to hold it and see if that is adequate. For removal of the clutch. So far, can't get this key and get the flywheel to go back onto the key so far. There we go. That key is just a little bit rough. I don't care for how it feels. We may go ahead and replace that. Oh damn, those are tight. And I'm playing with fire here. So, I'm going to put the nut back on this flywheel. I'm not going to crank it down hard, but I don't need it slipping off and damaging something on the saw or on my freaking hand. I suppose that's actually 9/16. It is. There we go. That's tight enough. And then I will take advantage of these nuts aren't in great shape, so I'm not worried about that starter pawl that fought me on the last video. Okay. Damn. This may be an oversized screw. Little kind of stuff you find, folks. You just never know. It is. Alright. Well, that's unfortunate. Because that sure looks oversized to me. That looks like a number 10 screw, and I'm pretty certain what's supposed to be in here is a number 8. So depending on what this carrier is, we may replace the clutch carrier. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's that style. Well, I'm pretty sure I've got some of that around. Some of these parts. And I'm also pretty sure I've got enough stuff that we could do a full complement of shoes instead of a skip sequence like that. Which is factory, by the way. I don't know for this exact model if that's what it was equipped with, but certainly an XL-700 and XL-12 or Super XL with that style, that was not uncommon. See how tight this clutch is. Oh, tight enough that that's going to hurt. Alright. I need to get some leverage on this. This Uno rubber here isn't worth anything else. I'll put that video out when I get a replacement for it. Jeez. This feels like a good way for me to punch myself in the face. Oh. And honestly, even though that might make for good video, that doesn't make for happy me. Let's see if a breaker bar will help us here. Damn, that's tight. Oh. That rust doesn't make me terribly happy either. Alright, it wants to be a persnickety shazat, and I want some leverage to put on it. So, let me change our view of things here. There we go. You can see the other half of my messy shop. Resist me now, dude. Watch me break one of these pins. There we go. There we go. If I'd rattle gun that, there are very good odds that I would have broken one of those pins. And I have a few rat holed away, but they're not growing on trees. So I'm trying not to be stupid, know what I mean? Alright. Hopefully that didn't make anybody ill. Yeah. Alright, I'll check. I could be hallucinating. I will check the threads on that. Even though the spider has some wear there, if I don't have to replace it, I'm not going to. Because, as I've said many times, parts aren't growing on trees for these things. Yeah, I'll leave that there. Alright. And it's almost like it's on cue when I come out here. That stupid little rat dog starts its escapades. Alright, those parts are reasonably clean. I'm going to start a pile of stuff for going in the old ultrasonic cleaner up here. You may hear it percolating away in the background. I just kicked on the heating element. It is right at 50 degrees out here this morning. Or at least it was when I parked a few minutes ago. So I'm hoping that this heating element will take it up to 100 degrees without too much difficulty. We'll see where it's at the end of this video. Okay. Did I get that too tight? Nope. Look at that. Mission accomplished. I'll tell you one thing that will be going in there is the flywheel. I've had really good luck cleaning up flywheels in there. And I do notice that I have one fin missing up here. I don't think I'm going to give a giant rip about that. Truthfully, I don't. I do want to get the basket out of here, though, before too long from now, so I can start putting parts in the basket. Let that drain for a second. Okay. We're on this side. We might as well stay on this side for a couple minutes. Not to make a bigger mess than I already have here, though. Getting hard enough to find everything. Yeah, see, these screws were loose. Somebody had this at least partially apart. Muffler's going to go in there. If nothing else, it'll loosen up some of the carbon and crap on this chrome surface and make it a little nicer. Same thing for this piece. Set that out before I forget. Yeah. I don't know if I can still, yep, right there. God, that ring looks good. I had one of our channel regulars ask what a Dykes ring is, and I'm assuming it's named for somebody. I've never done the research to confirm that, but again, I'm making that assumption. rather confidently, but it's at the top of the piston, and it's just that single ring. When we get this apart, we'll take a closer look at it. We've got some work to do before we get to that point, though. We're going to hope that there's no major amount of oil left in this thing. If there is, I am destined to make a mess, which I would prefer not to do. What I've learned with the ultrasonic cleaner is you don't want to put painted items in there. It will roach the paint pretty quickly. Anywhere that it can get under it, it will, and it'll bubble it and orange peel it and make it very easy to chip. So, okay. So I had a customer reach out through the website about this very issue of a worm that won't come off. And what I'm seeing here is wear on the surface of the worm. And I'm going to assume that that's from a washer that was spinning around in there, whether it was the right size, wrong size. There was some slippage there. So I don't know if at some point this oil pump seized. I can see it moving, so I don't think that's the case. But what we're going to do is very unscientific. Or at least what we're going to try. If I can find... What the hell's my... There it is. I keep a couple clutch plates around with the right threads. I say that and this won't be the right thread. It is. That way I can protect the end of the crankshaft. But I can get under this thing. We'll do a little pry and some tappies. See that? She just popped right up. Whoop. And just, ouch, fell right back down. Not all the way. I won't put that away just yet. Yeah, I can see a rough spot on that worm gear. Come on, baby. There we go. So there's the wear. And there's some buildup of grease and crap in there. My guess is I can just clean that out and she'll be just fine. This is another great candidate to go in ultrasonic cleaner. Okie dokie, hokey pokey. We should get the oil line off. And this has nuts on the back side. Okay. Don't let that fool you. They're back there. And if I remember right, they're 11/30 seconds. And if I am remembering correctly, which I'm probably not, I thought I had picked up an 11/30 seconds wrench. I did. It's right there. No more bull crap. Watch me be wrong about the size. I want it to be 5/16 on these. It is. That's so fun. Oh well, best of intentions, right? We'll just do that then. We're going to put the hardware back on this clamp just to keep it together. If you're not familiar with a saw and you're taking it apart like this, I recommend bagging the parts. Oh, come on. Stupid thing, just start. Don't have a lot of dexterity for a screw this freaking small. I'm wearing these gloves. The saw is a greasy mess. I don't even know what the hell I was saying there. Oh, label your parts. If you're truly not familiar with it, it'll make it so much easier when you go back together, go to put it back together. And I'm going to assume my crankcase will come with this fitting already installed, but I won't throw anything away until I get it. And it looks like the grommet that should be on the line in there is missing. So I'll have to do a little peekaboo in my parts stash and see what I can find there. I'm going to say this saw is not going to be any kind of a shelf queen or massive good looker when I'm done, but it's going to look decent. And it's going to have the right parts on it. This is going to be a pain in the ass, but I'll do it anyway. Hopefully I'll get it loose and be able to spin it by hand. Although so far it's not working with me. Oh, come on. Alright. Of course, on this end, it's not the same size. It's 3/8 down here. I'm just going to loosen this and leave it attached. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. That gets it out of my way. Okay, let's get the carb out. Because I still can't remember how much of a battle this is going to be. With that style of choke. It may be super simple, and it may not. Okay, need to get that crunchy old fuel hose the hell out of the way. See if I can pull it off the barb here. Oh, yeah, broke it off the barb. That counts. Yeah. Come on. Just get out of there. Yeah. See that? It's hardened around the pipe. It's not super tight, but you sure aren't going to pull it off. Not without slicing that. Okay. See if I remember. Yeah. So, can I get... Yep, that came off. Alright. I don't know if that's how the Homelight engineers intended for it. I'd like to think so. Carburetor. Oh, that does have the governed carb too. Interesting. HS-67A. I didn't realize they were using it that early. The more you know, right? Alright, this is basically ready to get the throttle handle off. I always like to start down here because that's an easy one to forget. And then you've got your 4 up top. And that intake manifold is kind of in the way. So we're going to see if we can fit our little 1/4-inch ratchet down in here for purposes of loosening these. I might have to use a shorter socket. I will. That's a tight fit down in there. It's not one of the best designed layouts. And I'm not actually convinced I'm going to be able to do this. Not that one. That's just asking trouble. That one I can. But this one came loose so easily. Let's see if we can grip the straight edge. can get it to come. Yes, alright. Otherwise, you'd be working in there. I guess there might be room to get this intake manifold off. But there's not a lot. And I don't want to at this moment. Okay, that one's loose. My goal with this is to have everything clean and mostly ready when the new crankcase arrives, so that we can just start putting it back together. As I've griped about plenty of times, I don't have an overabundance of space in here. Alright, this appears to have the good gasket on it, the red one, so let's see if we can get this to come loose without doing any damage. Failed to take the kill switch lead off the switch. There we go. Look at that. And I can reuse that red gasket. I like that a lot. A whole lot. That needs a bath. That needs a big bath. Okay. Let's, I want to scrape a little bit of goo off of this. Okay. Alright. We need to get that ignition assembly out of the way. We'll start with this big nut back, or bolt back here. This should be a 1/4 inch thread, so I may have to put a socket on it, but we'll see. Oh yeah, there we go. Come on, baby. There we go. These other ones. At some point, these crankcases were upsized so that all of those screws are 1/4 inch. I don't think I should have a problem with what I ordered. Now, this can be a pain to get off. This one's coming loose right away. What are you holding up on? Oh, it was doing that when I was trying to take the cover off. It's the points cover gasket hanging up on the flywheel key, I think. Oh, and the flywheel key just fell out. Where did it go? I know I said I wanted to... Oh, yeah. I did want to replace it, and it actually looks like the crankshaft has a little bit of an aug to it. Is the points hanging up on the machining? It was hanging up on the machining of the lobe. So this needs a bath, but other than that, it doesn't look terrible. Your bearing and your seal are retained in here to replace the crankshaft seal. You've got to get all the points box crap out and then tap it out from the other side. We'll see if that's something we're going to do. It wouldn't surprise me, just on principle being in here. Again, I'm not a proponent of replacing crap that doesn't need to be replaced, but something this involved, and part of how I determine that is looking around the crankshaft, and I do see some buildup. See that dark edge in there where the seal rides? To me, that says this was leaking slightly. So to me, that says we're going to replace it. Alright, might as well get the piston and cylinder out of here. And this is much like a Super XL, where half of it you've got to use a wrench and do the slow walk to get it off of here. Whether it's the first batch or the second batch, I will run the cylinder through that ultrasonic cleaner as well, and then dry it out immediately. I find that it doesn't get everything off the cylinder fins, but if it's not absolutely heat welded carbon, it gets a lot of it and makes them look pretty damn nice. You still got to hose it off at the end, but that's okay. I don't mind hosing something off if I'm actually taking the crap off. I'm going to take the spark plug out right now. I don't need any resistance as we're trying to separate this. Now this piston is going to have, I don't remember what they're called, but see that plasticky looking plug over the pin there? I want to make damn certain I don't lose those, because I'm certain if I did, trying to find some, well, let's just say we'd probably have to change the piston to a standard style. And that's part of the charm of this saw, is the fact that it has something that you don't see all that too often. At least it is for me. Alright, enough fiddle farting around. I'm not going to get to that one. Well, funny, it wasn't supposed to rain anymore today. But those are some pretty big raindrops, and there might be a little bit of hail mixed into it. Tell you, man, we've had so much rain. The ground is so saturated right now. There's no way I could drive across that creek at the firewood hill without making a giant mess. Holy crap. The gasket didn't even break. This cylinder doesn't have the appearance of having run on this saw all that long. Put the lid back on the pressure cooker here. It will heat much more effectively that way. Alright. Alright, those pins or plugs haven't fallen out yet. Let me see if my new quality, oh, that's maybe the 9/64. Quality Kleins can break this loose without doing damage. Nope. I'll just roll that right out. Okay. That's too bad. Too bad indeed. Uh-oh. Where's my 9/64? There it is. False alarm. And yes, I realize if I was to knock the pin out... Wait a minute. What am I doing here? Well, I guess it would help if I grabbed the actual 9/64. Reading's overrated. If I knocked the pin out, took the piston off, I could get a straight angle on these. But that's not how I like to take these apart. My way is not the only way. We all know that. But it works for me, and therefore I keep doing it. And there's the flywheel key. Can't tell if that's actually distorted a little bit. I think it is. I will probably replace that key, and at the same time I am almost certainly, if I see anywhere I can get it in there, I'll mix up a small batch of JB Weld and fill any gap in there. Alright, so I'm going to drop a bunch of needles here. Already started. I'm going to get those bagged up fairly quickly. Alright, so we've got some carbon marks on the piston from the transfer ports, nothing obscene. Those plugs just float in there. But look at that ring design. So same thing, you want to keep the split end away from the muffler port, keep it in towards the ignition. I mean, all things considered, this is a fairly clean piston. Now, can I get that cap to come out without spilling its contents? Yeah, no. That's making a mess. Yep, that's making a big old mess. Okay. I'll just do it 52 card pickup style. Since everything's dry, they all appear to have come out. But now, this is where having a couple little baggies would be a damned good idea. And these will get cleaned up and reinstalled. No reason to believe there's anything wrong with these bearings. Okay. Pretty sure there's supposed to be 29 of those. Let's just see if I've got those separated in a way that I can count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. Can I get the same count twice? I'll glare off the bag. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That glare. 2, 4, 6, 10, 28. Huh. Well, I've counted 28 twice. I was thinking there was supposed to be 29. I'll just have to look at the IPL. And if there is, I'll replace it. Because I don't think I have any of that style laying around. So this is a fractured rod and only goes together one way. And I'm not looking to tighten this down, I just want to keep everything together. This is a very clean top end. It's actually a real damn shame that the crankcase was damaged and we had to come this far into it, but hey, crap happens, right? Okie dokie, hokey pokey. So we still got some other stuff to take out, but let's see if we can't get this crankshaft out. And I'm sure that Homelight had a puller tool to pull it out. We're not going to do that. We're going to do something less sophisticated. But the first thing we have to do is get those two bearing retainer screws out that are down there. You should be able to see the one up there. So there's two ways this can go. It can play nice and come out with a screwdriver, or it cannot and need to have an impact driver. There's actually a third way that it can go, and we don't talk about that way, because that way involves drilling the head off of a screw. And those are hardened screws, so that's not terribly simple. Okay. I always keep those screws in with the rod bearing. I don't know why, that just seems to be what works for me. Okay, so that's a press fit. We're going to use that same clutch plate that I used earlier. I'm going to give this some love taps and get it the hell out of there. If it's a real pain in the ass, I can set it on a... Well, I'll do that. Maybe. Can I even get to my 2x4s? Oh. Some of these I can just hold the crankcase with my hand and just give it some love taps out. We'll do it this way. Looks more official. I did not damage that crankshaft by doing that, especially with the dead blow hammer. Okay, there you go. Bearing is smooth and quiet. I'm not replacing that. I will use some brake clean to try and get all the carbon and the yuckity poo off of there, and I will run this over the bench grinder with a wire wheel to get the rust off the crankshaft weights. That kind of tells you how long this has been sitting here. It's been a hot minute. This thing has not run in quite some time, but yeah, no damage to speak of. That line right there by the crankshaft seal on the flywheel side is what I'm referring to, why I think there was a leak there. And you can see, I would say the flywheel nut has come loose on this before, and you can see where it's just tried to mound up the material of the crank right there a little bit. Let's see if we got any daylight around. Yeah, we do. Okay, look at that. There's some daylight around that key. So this over time has been sitting there wallering back and forth. And I'd almost gamble that that flywheel had been replaced at some point. But this is a case where a person could try using a small center punch and peening material back over, but if you screw up your crankshaft, well, you screw up your crankshaft. This is probably a 67168-1, probably, but there might be an earlier part number. I'll have to look. No, a -1's a manual oiler. This would have to be a -3, I think. Anyway, I will look and see if I have a new crank for this. It doesn't need one, but like I say, you could put JB Weld in there and cure it. Be okay. We will see. What I do know is I'll take that key out because it's going to fall out. Okay. All the other stuff that we're going to need off of this here crankcase, we might as well go ahead and take off so that when I do my crab pot stew and the ultrasonic cleaner there, everything gets in. Now this was another clue that it was an early model, because this is actually a metal intake here as opposed to plastic. And yes, as far as I know, if you wanted to take an old plastic and change it to this material, that would work. But there's something missing here. There's no gasket. in between the reed blocks, so there was an obvious air leak. Huh. Well, that's also something that if I was doing a basic carb kit and done, that I wouldn't have caught, so that's good to catch that. Reeds all look pretty damn good. This one flares out just ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. Not enough for me to give a rip. I'll just clean that up and she'll be good to go. Alright. The fuel tank vent, I'll have to rebuild that. You can just pop the end cap off and throw a new duckbill in. That's easy peasy. I think I'll wait until the new, to me, part comes in. Be certain I won't throw that away. The adjuster, if I don't need it, I'll throw on the website. I definitely need that plate. I definitely need that plate for the handle. That is glued in place, that you wouldn't know was removable unless you knew that it was removable. Our fuel and oil caps, those can, ooh, oh my god, that's tight. Oh my goodness. I hope this doesn't break. There we go. Those can run through the ultrasonic cleaner. This will need a a new duckbill valve, clearly. I'm certain this cap does not have one. We already covered that, but it can get cleaned up. Alright. I know this wasn't super elaborate, but since all we're replacing is the crankcase, that's as far as we need to go. Now it's just down to cleaning stuff up. So yeah, there's nothing glamorous about that. I think we all know how to clean parts. When new parts arrive, we'll come back for the next episode.